Good evening. Welcome back to the Bitcoin Zodiac. I hope you're all doing well. Um, are you bored yet? Are you bored of Bitcoin? Lots of people are. That's a general consensus in the market. And I have to say, I don't have a ton of good news for you this week, but I'm going to bring to you what I have, and we're all in this together. We can go through it together. And I think what we're seeing at the moment from Bitcoin is really what I talked about a couple of months ago, when I said that, look, I really don't see anything particularly interesting happening in terms of upside movement, really until after the eclipses. Like, let's just get through the eclipses. If we get some upside, then great. But it's really nothing is like very clear and very certain until we get through those eclipses. So I'll talk a little bit about the upcoming eclipse season at the end today, because we are coming into that eclipse shadow period. But in the meantime, let's get stuck into the current astrology. So happy new moon in Virgo. This new moon, really on a personal level, is all about worthiness and aligning to your worthiness. So we have this new moon in the earth sign of Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury. And really, the attributes of Virgo are very practical, detail orientated, analytical, organized, and really kind of perfectionistic. And if you know a Virgo, you can understand this. Like, this is totally on brand for Virgo. So, of course, at the new moon, it's a really powerful time to set intentions, what you want for the next moon cycle, next 3 months, 6 months to a year. And so really just being very intentional about setting your intentions. And, this new moon really draws this energy of aligning those intentions to your true worth. So a big part of manifesting those intentions into reality is very much linked to believing in your own value and your own worth and your ability to align with those things that you're wanting to invite into your life, or you're wanting to ascend to in your life. So this new moon really is about owning your power. So owning the reality that you have the power to create and direct your life, and feeling worthy of your intentions is really essential to bringing those into reality. And so what I would do is really, dive into setting your intentions and aligning those to your true worth and your true values. So no small intentions. Like, these are kind of like high self-worth intentions that you're going to be setting. And then sort of looking at them and recognizing about how you feel about them. Like, do you feel deserving of your intentions? And if some emotions come up, around that maybe you don't feel worthy, or maybe negative emotions like, if I do manifest this and I do become this version of myself, what will other people think? Will they be jealous of me? Will they reject me? Anything like that. This new moon is a really good time to look at those sorts of things that may be blocking you, and really healing those and releasing those limiting beliefs. So really reflect on whether you truly feel worthy of your visions, or if something needs healing and releasing and unblocking. So you want to explore any kind of feelings of inadequacy. So examining any areas of your life where you may feel inadequate. And most of the time, we're kind of running on beliefs that we establish very early on in childhood, usually from the age of 0 to 7, but also that's kind of extends out to 14 as well. So a lot of our deep held beliefs were actually established during that time. So you want to sort of have a look at how you feel about the intentions that you're setting, and if there's any areas that you sort of feel inadequate of those intentions, or the result of those intentions, and maybe tie them to past experiences of where you picked that up in your childhood or who told you that, and really analyzing whether those voices are still relevant and still valid for you. This new moon is also a really good time for inner child work. It can really help you understand and reclaim your self-worth. As I said, a lot of our deep held beliefs really were established in childhood. And so you want to, inner child work allows you to go back and look at how that inner child was, how that child was feeling, and go back and sort of re-establish that self-worth around that. So it really helps build self-confidence and self-worth. And you also want to know the difference between self-confidence. Like, self-confidence really is the belief in your abilities and skills, and it's often sort of related to external validation, and self-worth is this inherent belief in your innate value. So regardless of any external achievements or opinions or anything like that. So when you're writing these intentions, you want to focus on how you want to feel, and align your intentions with your worth, with the highest self-worth version of that. So Virgo's energy really supports paying attention to the details. So write out, like, get into detail about your intentions, write out everything to do with those intentions, maybe even get into scripting, and really creating sort of a clear, concise vision for yourself. And then, as I said, go back and reflect on whether you actually feel worthy of the emotions your intentions are evoking. So if those intentions evoke a sense of joy, do you really feel worthy of joy? And yeah, just analyze that, and set about a healing journey around those things that come up if you do have any sort of feelings of unworthiness. You also want to consider whether you're holding back like a talent or moving forward in an area of your life due to fear or a sense of unworthiness, because sometimes it's the fear that's blocking you. Fear of failure, even fear of success. As I said, like how people may respond to your success. So you want to ask yourself if your gifts are worthy of being shared with others, and take that through that journaling process as well. So this new moon is really an opportunity for healing and realizing your potential. So reflecting on what you need to heal and how you can integrate healing practices into your daily life to support that self-worth. So ask yourself if you're feeling worthy of both your current life and also the one that you're creating. And yeah, as I said, this new moon is really about embracing your worthiness, embracing your innate worthiness, regardless of what society tells you, your family tells you, your friends tell you, your partner tells you. Because self-worth really is the cornerstone of manifestation. And you want to use this lunar cycle to explore your worthiness and identify areas that don't align with that and that maybe need healing, and embrace the energy of being worthy of your visions. So this new moon in Virgo is in Bitcoin's second house, so the house of money, of trade, and of interest rates. And there's been a lot of talk about interest rates, with Jerome Powell giving an address from Jackson Hole, really indicating that he is going to reduce interest rates. The market is kind of predicting, giving 100% chance that he's going to reduce those rates, and just sort of a discrepancy between whether it's going to be 25 basis points or 50 basis points. Now, I find the timing of the September Fed meeting very interesting. It's day after the lunar eclipse. And so I'll talk more about the eclipses later on, but expect the unexpected. Like, everybody is expecting him to reduce rates and expecting some outcome from the market based on that, but also him not reducing rates like everyone expects is also like quite like eclipsey behavior. So just prepare yourself for that, and take that into account as you hear a lot of the rhetoric. I personally am expecting him to reduce rates. I've been expecting him to reduce rates for months now. But as I said, the timing of this around eclipse, right in the middle, not right in the middle, but the day after the first eclipse is interesting to me. And I just think not to take nothing for granted, and nothing is certain, and always expect the unexpected when it comes to eclipses. But with Bitcoin, we have, the new moon really occurs when the sun and the moon are conjunct, so they align at the same degree in the zodiac. And this alignment is really symbolic of new beginnings, setting intentions, and initiating projects. So in Virgo, it emphasizes this practicality, attention to detail, analytical thinking, and a focus on service and efficiency. So in financial astrology, Virgo's influence tends to bring more of a cautious, methodical, and detailed-oriented approach to the markets. This is such uncomfortable energy for a Sagittarius like me. We tend to love the big picture, the worldwide impact, and the philosophy, the bigger ideas, the ideology, and we don't love like getting into the details. But even if this energy is uncomfortable, all of the energies of the zodiac are really important to tune into and to cultivate as well. And oftentimes those energies that feel kind of uncomfortable for you are really the ones to focus on and cultivate within yourself. And these usually are the areas of the most growth. So we're really getting into the details in this new moon, and that's what this is all about. The specific degree of 11 degrees Virgo does add this extra layer also of precision and attention to detail, really highlighting the importance of thorough analysis and careful planning. So this degree emphasizes the need to focus on the finer points of your technical analysis, and just ensuring that all aspects are really scrutinized before taking action. So we have this mercurial energy as well, with Virgo being ruled by Mercury. So the focus on communication, data, and information is also very much heightened during this new moon period. So it may bring to light some important information or insights that can influence market trends as well. So this is a time when we should be paying very close attention to market reports, financial news, and detailed analysis. So the Virgo new moon tends to promote a more conservative approach to the market. So market participants may be more risk averse, preferring safe and stable assets over speculative ones. And this could kind of lead to a period of like slower market movements and more of a focus on long-term stability rather than short-term gains. Like, this is not really the time to be looking at random meme coins or low cap altcoins that, that really don't have anything substantial behind them. And with Virgo's analytical nature as well, there's likely to be just a greater emphasis on fundamental analysis as well as technical analysis. And, we may want to prioritize companies, or the market may prioritize companies and assets with strong financial health, robust earnings, and strong balance sheets. So this is a time for us. I mean, I think that more relates to the S&P, to be honest. But this is also a time for us to reassess our portfolios and focus on really quality investments rather than chasing trends. So it's a really good time to have a look at your portfolio and analyze any altcoins that you might be holding against Bitcoin. And really, it's a time to get rid of the ones that just aren't performing, because that capital can be used better somewhere else. And also, Bitcoin is still seen as a very highly speculative asset. So it definitely does respond to shifts in market sentiment. So the new moon in Virgo could also introduce this period of like very cautious trading, where investors are just less inclined to take high risk positions. And so this may result in reduced volatility in Bitcoin's price, but it also can lead to reduce volume. And so that then is easier manipulated. So that can bring some volatility that just isn't easy to be analyzed. So I would really recommend that people really focus on technical analysis and also fundamentals. Also, given Virgo's methodical nature, Bitcoin's price may consolidate during this period with less dramatic price swings. And we might see this as a time to refine like trading strategies or focusing on accumulation during dips and really avoiding impulsive trades. It's a time to review and reassess. So it's a time to really look at your current investment portfolio and focus on the fundamentals, just really making sure that your investments are sound and aligned with your long-term goals. And we want to be really focused on data and analytics to guide our choices and avoid speculative investments that really lack a solid foundation. So it's a time to be really methodical, really stick to your trading plan, really use your technical analysis and stick to your rules that you have around taking trades, and be very precise in your decisions. So pay close attention to any financial news and reports, particularly updates related to technology or regulation in crypto markets, or any market shifts that in sentiment that could impact Bitcoin's price action, basically. And the reason I'm saying that as well is that it'll become clear as we go through some other aspects, but we want to sort of be focused on what's happened, what's being communicated with that mercurial energy, because there is also like quite illusionary aspects as well at this time. And so we want to really be honing in on the correct data and really the technical aspect of that, rather than getting caught up in any hype. So before we dig into this next period coming up, I also want to draw some attention to Uranus retrograde in Taurus, which actually started on the 1st of September, and this will continue to the 30th of January 2025. So Uranus is a planet of sudden change, of innovation and disruption. So it represents breakthroughs and unexpected events and the desire for freedom from traditional constraints. So when it's in Taurus, which is an earth sign ruled by Venus, it's associated with stability, security, material wealth, and values. So Taurus prefers consistency, reliability, and a slow and steady approach. So when Uranus is in Taurus, the stable, grounded energy of Taurus is kind of disrupted by Uranus's desire for change and innovation. So this can kind of lead to unexpected shifts and changes in how we perceive value and wealth. So when a planet is in retrograde, its energy turns inward, so becoming more reflective and less outwardly active. So Uranus retrograde in Taurus really suggests a period where the revolutionary and disruptive energies of Uranus are focused inwardly. So that's leading to internal shifts on how we approach financial stability, investments, and our overall relationship with material wealth. So that's definitely something to tune into during this period, and sort of just analyze, like, what are your values? Where do you stand on things? What is your risk tolerance? And just that relationship to material wealth as well. And because those aspects are really going to be heightened during this time. And during a Uranus retrograde, we might find ourselves sort of questioning traditional financial structures and methods of wealth accumulation. So that's very like Bitcoin orientated, in my opinion. So it's really time to assess like what financial security really means to you, and exploring like new innovative approaches that align with new values and new technologies. So that to me is actually quite positive for Bitcoin. I'm not saying that will be reflected in the price, but more about it's more internal. This energy is more internal during a retrograde. So it's more about how we feel about that. and, how we want freedom from, traditional constraints, and how we want to align with new values and new technologies. So it's really looking at that from an internal perspective and how we relate to it. Uranus is known for causing sudden, unexpected changes when it comes. So when it goes retrograde, there can be this period of market uncertainty and volatility. So we might see shifts in market trends that are kind of difficult to predict. So just leading to this atmosphere of instability, fear of the unknown. And Taurus rules sectors like banking, agriculture, real estate, and commodities. So during Uranus retrograde, these sectors all might experience disruptions, innovations, or a reevaluation of their foundational principles. So expect changes in the way that value is perceived in this area. I think it's a really interesting sort of heads up or red flag that this past week, Warren Buffett just dumped billions of dollars of B of A shares, so Bank of America shares. I think that's just very interesting because Taurus does rule the banking sector. So we may see some changes there. We all know, I mean, I spoke about this probably 3 or 4 months ago about the unrealized losses on the balance sheets of a lot of banks, not just in America, but also in Europe and UK as well. So these may come to light during this period as well. Uranus also governs technology and innovation. So in Taurus, this can relate to new financial technologies, really lining up with Bitcoin, with cryptocurrencies and alternate investment methods. So during this retrograde, there may be a reconsideration or a revision of these technologies and their role in the broader financial system. Like, what is Bitcoin's role in the broader financial system? So because Bitcoin is a digital currency, it is directly influenced by Uranus energy. Now, this kind of sounds quite positive because we want Bitcoin to be considered, Bitcoin's role in the financial system to be considered, but it can also lead to increased scrutiny or regulation, which may, in the short term impact Bitcoin's price, like either positively or negatively, just depending on the nature of these developments. So this Uranus retrograde may also prompt long-term investors to reassess Bitcoin's potential as a store of value. And so this could lead to more strategic repositioning in portfolios of Bitcoin, and even some investors really doubling down on their holdings. So during this time, we want to stay informed and flexible, as well as, Uranus influence can lead to sudden changes in market conditions. We want to avoid impulsive decisions. So while Uranus energy might push for sudden changes, during retrograde, it's sort of wise to avoid making like impulsive decisions. And especially with this Virgo season energy as well, you really want to take the time to thoroughly research and consider the long-term implications of any of your moves. So this is a time to review and reassess. So use this retrograde period to turn inwards and review your current strategies, reassess your personal relationship with money, wealth, material security. This is really a time for internal reflection, which can then lead to more informed and innovative financial decisions once Uranus turns direct. So on the 2nd of September, we have Mars in Gemini squared Neptune in Pisces. So Mars is the planet of action, drive, and ambition, and it governs how we assert ourselves. So our energy levels and also our ability to take decisive action. So in Gemini, Mars is very quick, adaptable, and intellectually driven, usually leading to, it can sometimes lead to like a scattered energy or like very impulsive decisions. So Neptune is the planet of dreams, illusions, and intuition, and it governs our imagination, spirituality, and ideals. But it can also bring confusion and deception and unrealistic expectations. So in Pisces, Neptune is actually at home. In Pisces, amplifying its mystical and nebulous qualities. So often blurring the line between reality and fantasy. So when Mars in Gemini squares Neptune and Pisces, there's this clash between the assertive action and these elusive, foggy energies. So this aspect can create confusion and misdirection and a lack of clarity, particularly in the decision-making process. And obviously that is reflected in the charts, in the markets. So with a square aspect, it is a challenging aspect that often forces action or change. It represents this tension between the two planets, with conflict and just a need for resolution. So this aspect brings tension between the direct, like action-orientated energy of Mars and the dreamy, unclear energy of Neptune. So it can result in misdirected efforts, misunderstandings, and the pursuit of unrealistic goals. So there is a risk of acting on false information or being swayed by idealistic or impractical visions. So that's what I was sort of saying before, when, we need to harness this Virgo energy to really be overly analytical about maybe the news we're consuming or the, influences that you're watching, and just make sure that we're on the side of groundedness rather than the side of illusion and unrealistic expectations. So during this Mars-Neptune square, financial markets can experience confusion, volatility. So investors might struggle to see the bigger picture, just leading to some kind of erratic market behavior. And as I said, if people are kind of bored of Bitcoin at this point in time, and there's low volume, this is very easily manipulated, and it can just lead people, if they're not staying grounded, it can really lead people to be, FOMOing in 1 second and then, selling out of fear the next second. So we want to really stay grounded and stay focused on the big picture. So decisions made under this influence can sometimes lack clear direction, resulting in fluctuating or confusing market trends. So also with this Neptune energy, as I said before, in regards to your technical analysis, you want to lean into that overly analytical, rules-based system. Stick to your trading plan. You don't want to be going off on a tangent or doing things emotionally or off the cuff, because this Neptune energy can also make your technical analysis a little bit more difficult to interpret. And I think we've already seen a bit of that influence in the last week or so. I mean, Bitcoin's technical analysis has been a little all over the shop, to be honest. Not really giving the levels that you'd expect, not giving the market structure that you'd expect at certain points. So it's been a little more, difficult to decipher. And so you want to just be paying attention to that. And if it doesn't make sense to you, if there's not a clear entry, don't enter. So I'd really recommend that. I mean, even with our last episode, as I said during that episode, we went up, we took out that liquidity. I think it was between 61 and 63.5. And that's why I mentioned these liquidation levels in these videos, because they are important. I mean, the market makers are literally seeking for liquidity in the market, and that's where the direction they will move in. So it is really worth looking at. But other than those kind of liquidation levels that I spoke about, the market structure was pretty messy last week. So yeah, Neptune's influence can bring deception or misunderstanding. So there's an increased risk of information and scams. So this is something that plagues the crypto markets on so many different levels. There's a lot of scams when it comes to education around crypto. There's a lot of kind of scammy behavior when it comes to the projects themselves, and even things that are built on top of crypto, like different things in DeFi and things like that. Like, you really want to know have some clarity about what's going on there, and just don't get caught up in the illusion of things. Like, if you're in DeFi and they're promising you a yield, you want to be able to figure out where that yield comes from. Because if you can't figure it out, you generally are the yield. And, the same when it comes to education. Like, are the results from these people that are educating you, are they achieving these results? Are they you want to have some clarity around that. And the same when you're looking at projects, like not getting caught up in the hype and the illusion, like really looking at some of the fundamentals of these projects, like fully diluted market cap, for example. If there's a project that does nothing, isn't even built yet, is it really realistic for it to have a multi-billion fully diluted market cap? I mean, I don't personally think so. So you want to be really looking at the details as a way to mitigate this sort of illusionary quality of Neptune as well. So Mars in Gemini typically seeks quick, decisive action, but when it's squared with Neptune, this drive, is kind of like clouded or muted in some way. So we might find it difficult to make confident decisions, leading to hesitancy or abrupt, poorly thought out moves. So that's what I meant by, if it's not clear, if it's not a clear entry, then don't enter. Take the day off and sit it out. Like, it's not a big deal to do that. So with Bitcoin being a speculative asset, you could see increased volatility during this Mars-Neptune square. And the lack of clear direction and potential for misinformation can lead to like wild price swings as well. So as traders, we react, if we'll get these wild swings if traders react impulsively to news or rumors, especially at a time where volume is low. Neptune's influence does suggest that perceptions around Bitcoin's value may be distorted. So we need to look at whether we're overestimating or underestimating Bitcoin's potential during this period. So, because that then leads to irrational market behavior. So be cautious of hype or fear-driven market movements. You don't want to be buying into either end of that spectrum. You want to be staying really grounded and sticking to what you can actually see. So with Mars pushing for action and Neptune clouding judgment, there's a higher risk of making impulsive or poorly informed trading decisions. So it is really important to just take that step back, gather all the necessary information, and avoid acting on emotional impulses. And next, on the 3rd of September, we have Venus conjunct the South Node in Libra. So I actually see this aspect of more when we look at the traditional markets or from sort of a more macro perspective. But Venus is the planet of love, of beauty, of harmony. But in financial astrology, it also governs money, wealth, values, and assets. So Venus influences how we relate to material wealth, investments, and our financial decision making. So the South Node then represents past karma, so old patterns that we're comfortable with, but we really need to move beyond. So it often points to areas of our life where we may be clinging to the past or repeating outdated behaviors that just no longer serve our growth. So what I mean by that in terms of the financial markets, in terms of the macro perspective, is that this may be a period of time where past karma is showing itself, old patterns that we're just so comfortable with and we're easy in that groove, but we actually need to move out and move beyond. And I mean, we only need to look at our current financial system to know that change is needed, and we're ready to move beyond that. And so when Venus conjuncts the South Node in Libra, which is a sign of balance, relationships, and justice, there's a powerful focus on reassessing our values and patterns, especially those rooted in the past. So we kind of need to look at the mistakes that have been made in the past, you know, that from our current system that we all live in, we all exist in. And what can we learn from those lessons, those mistakes of the past? And what are we ready to release and stop repeating over and over and over again? So this conjunction really encourages a deep review of past behaviors, both our own past behaviors and collectively, relationships and also investments. So it's a time to recognize and let go of outdated and unhealthy patterns that are just no longer serving us, both personally and collectively. So Venus conjunct the South Node may bring up issues related to the past. So we might see that in the news. And we might see that being highlighted. Like I sort of think that the biggest sorts of mistakes of the past are always like this government intervention, and quantitative easing and quantitative tightening. And so these kind of like issues with that, with those actions of the past, could be showing themselves in the present during this time. So this period is where unresolved financial matters may resurface. So asking for closure or reassessment. So the South Node's influence can also indicate that lessons from the past are coming to the forefront. So this might involve like reevaluating what you value in terms of wealth and material possessions, and potentially shifting your focus towards more sustainable and balanced practices. So that can be in your personal life, but it can also be how you relate to Bitcoin. Like previously, maybe you're in it just because you see that Bitcoin has the potential to go up in US dollar terms. But when we have a look at really how our financial system operates, it's really not sustainable and it's not balanced. And so we want to be shifting towards a bit more alignment, some sustainability and some balance and fairness. So at this time, this is going to cause sort of like a time for reflection, and it may also cause a correction. So this transit could signal a period of both reflection and correction in the markets. And we might want to reassess our portfolios, again, lining up with other aspects as well, especially focusing on assets that just no longer align with our current values or goals. So again, like getting rid of those meme coins or getting rid of those projects that aren't even holding up against Bitcoin, and reassessing and having a bit of a clear out. And even, projects that are kind of around supporting CBDCs or something that maybe just doesn't align to your values. Like, what is that doing in your investment portfolio? Just because you think it may go up in value, but it's not aligned to your own personal values. So it really shouldn't be in there. So this can be a period of market adjustment or consolidation, as outdated strategies are abandoned. So again, I mentioned earlier Warren Buffett dumping his B of A shares. I think these things can't be ignored, and that's a bit of a red flag for me for the U.S. banking system, if I'm really honest. So we want to focus on balance and justice. With Libra's influence, there may be this stronger emphasis on fairness, balance, and ethical considerations in our financial dealings. And again, this is where Bitcoin comes in. The karma of the past, our current system is not fair, not balanced, and not ethical. And so that's the whole reason that Bitcoin was created, was to create something that was fair, balanced, ethical, transparent, verifiable, completely unlike our current financial system. So markets, overall macro markets as well, might see a shift towards investments that are more socially responsible or aligned with ethical values. There's also a potential for a decline in overvalued assets. So the South Node's energy could lead to this decline in assets that have been previously overvalued or are tied to unsustainable financial practices. So this could include speculative investments that have been propped up by hype rather than real value. So again, I think this is really a spotlight on the S&P, and you may see more of a focus on that in that area. But I also think that it can relate to crypto as well. There's a ton of assets that are only being propped up by hype, and they don't really have any real value. And that's going to come to the forefront during this time. Bitcoin might also experience a period of reassessment during this Venus South Node conjunction as well. We could question, we could see people questioning the long-term value of Bitcoin, especially if it's more been driven by speculation rather than by fundamental value. So we kind of like want people to question this. Like if you're just here before the US dollar gains off Bitcoin, then it might not be the place for you, or maybe that's how you entered, that's how you came into the space, but now's the time to really tune into the fundamental value of Bitcoin and what it's here to do. So the conjunction really could trigger a price correction in Bitcoin for sure, particularly if the market perceives that its recent valuations are inflated. So this might not be a dramatic crash, but just more of a like steady rebalancing as the market realigns with more realistic expectations for this time, like in the short term. For those that are heavily invested in Bitcoin as well, this may be an opportunity to learn from previous mistakes and adjust strategies accordingly, like really focusing on the long-term stability rather than just on short-term gains. So it's really a time to reassess and realign. You can use this time to reassess your portfolio, again, to reassess your portfolio, to focus on aligning your investments with your current values and financial goals. Consider letting go of any assets that no longer serve your long-term plans, both fundamentally, ethically, or even profit-wise. Avoid high-risk speculations at this time as well. Given this potential for a market correction, it's really wise to avoid high-risk speculation during this period. Like instead, focus on stable, well-structured assets that align with your values. Also, because there is this possibility for a correction. And I'm not saying, I don't know if it will come during this period. It may come in the eclipse period. But if you're tempted to sort of FOMO into a position on Bitcoin, you maybe want to have a look at these sort of lower levels. I'm going to mention some liquidity levels again at the end of the session, just to sort of see where we're at. But you don't want to just like jump into things. You want to be very analytical and kind of strong and grounded in your positions. And so rather than just jumping in wherever, you want to be very analytical about it, and you don't want to just be speculating, because there is the potential for a pullback here. I'm going to be honest. That wouldn't be surprising to me at all. So look for opportunities that promote balance and sustainability and ethical considerations. So this is really a time to invest in what truly matters to you, both financially and ethically. Then on the 9th of September, we have Mercury entering Virgo. So again, Mercury is this planet of communication, of intellect and commerce. It governs how we think, how we analyze, how we communicate, and also how we manage information. So in financial astrology, Mercury's influence also extends to the decision-making process, trade, transactions, and also the flow of information in the markets. So with Virgo's influence, it's, as we spoke about before, it's an earth sign ruled by Mercury, so making this placement particularly strong and effective. So Virgo is analytical and detail-oriented, practical, and really focused on efficiency and precision. So when Mercury enters Virgo, it just emphasizes this careful planning, thorough analysis, and methodical approach to decision-making. So together, Mercury and Virgo brings a period of heightened attention to detail, practicality, and the importance of accurate information. So this is another aspect that is sort of supporting that energy of that new moon that we've just had, that we will have just had by the time we get to the 9th of September. So that kind of Virgo energy is really coming through, and particularly with Mercury, everything that Mercury governs, like communication and decision-making. So as Mercury moves into Virgo, there's a natural boost also in our analytical abilities. So this is a really great time for really getting into the details, scrutinizing investments, reviewing your financial plans, and just making data-driven decisions. Like, your own ability is going to be heightened for that during this time as well. So Virgo's influence really encourages this practical approach to your finances and your investments. So investors are likely to prioritize well-researched, stable investments over speculative ventures, really focusing on long-term stability. Do you see how there's a theme through all of these aspects during this period? And so this period really enhances that ability to notice the small but significant details that you might overlook in other signs. So it's a good time to just go over your technical analysis and just go over everything with a fine-tooth comb, because your ability to notice something might be more heightened now than it was 2 weeks ago when you were putting certain things together, or a month ago, or 6 months ago. So really dial into that energy and use it really well to your advantage. So Mercury in Virgo might also encourage just a closer look at Bitcoin's underlying technology and its real-world applications. So investors could probably place more importance on Bitcoin's practical uses, adoption rates, and technological advances, which also might influence price action as well. On the 10th of September, we have Jupiter semi-square Bitcoin's natal Mercury. So Jupiter is the planet of expansion, of growth, optimism, and abundance. Often brings opportunities for prosperity and increases whatever it touches, but it can also lead to excess, overconfidence, or inflation if not, carefully managed. Mercury governs communication, intellect, commerce, and transactions. And again, as I said, when talking about the last aspect, decision-making processes and the flow of information and trading activity. So when Jupiter forms a semi-square with Mercury, it creates a minor but significant tension between the expansive energy of Jupiter and the analytical, detailed nature of Mercury. So this aspect can kind of lead to challenges in communication, overestimation, or difficulty in making well-informed decisions. Are you seeing the through line between all of the aspects during this time period? So a semi-square is a 45-degree angle between two planets, representing a mild tension, obstacles, or friction. It's definitely not as intense as a square, but the semi-square can still create challenges that require adjustment and awareness to navigate effectively. So this aspect can create a tendency to toward overexpansion, overconfidence, and miscommunication. So there might be a bit of a clash between Jupiter's desire to grow quickly and Mercury's need for careful, precise communication and analysis. So during this period, markets might experience a surge in optimism, leading to speculative behavior. Investors could also overestimate the potential of certain assets, driving prices up without solid foundations to support their growth. And the tension between Jupiter and Mercury could also lead to misinformation or a misrepresentation of data. So this might result in decisions based on incomplete or overly optimistic information. So this can cause potential volatility in the markets. In the broader financial context, communication between market participants may be strained, and there may be misunderstandings or exaggerated expectations, leading to some erratic price action. So Bitcoin's price could see some heightened volatility during this Jupiter semi-square Mercury, but the market might react to overly optimistic news or forecasts, leading for price spikes that are just not sustainable at this time. And there is a risk that traders and investors may overextend themselves, maybe a lot of leverage come into the market. driven by the sense of overconfidence. So this could lead to like a bit of a mini bubble like scenario where prices rise really rapidly, only to face a sharp correction once reality actually sets in. So as I've said in previous episodes, I don't feel like we're out of the woods until we pass these eclipses. So even though we may see spikes to the upside or moves to the upside, and you may see tons of communication saying, yeah, we're here, let's go, this is, we're going to all new all-time highs, etc., etc. We all saw it in the last 2 weeks as well, which I discussed last episode. I just don't think we're there yet. So just keep that in mind. Any overly optimistic news just needs to be kept in perspective of reality and where we are in the cycle. So given Mercury's role in communication, how Bitcoin's discussed in the media or among influencers can significantly impact its price during this period, especially given low volume. Be wary of any hype-driven narratives that really lack any substantial kind of backing. Then on the 14th of September, we have Venus in Libra, Trine Jupiter in Gemini. And this is actually a super positive aspect. Again, as we discussed earlier, Venus is the planet of love, beauty, harmony, and in financial astrology, it governs money, wealth, values, and assets. So Venus in Libra emphasizes balance, fairness, relationships, often leading to quite favorable conditions for partnerships and financial agreements. And Jupiter, as we just discussed, is the planet of expansion, growth, optimism, and abundance. And it just magnifies everything and brings opportunities for prosperity. So in Gemini, Jupiter's energy is very curious and versatile and communicative. And that often leads to growth through learning and networking and diversified ventures. So when Venus forms this trine with Jupiter, it creates a very harmonious and beneficial connection, amplifying the positive qualities of both planets. So trines are aspects that flow smoothly, indicating like ease and support and opportunities in the areas that they influence. So this trine actually is one of the most favorable aspects in financial astrology, symbolizing growth and abundance and good fortune in financial matters. So it suggests a period of optimism where investments and financial decisions are likely to be rewarded. So Jupiter's expansive nature combined with Venus's influence over wealth really suggests that this is a time when financial ventures, especially those involving partnerships or collaborations, can really flourish. So there's a natural alignment of values and opportunities for growth. So during this Venus-Jupiter trine, financial markets are likely to experience like a surge in optimism. So investors may feel more confident, leading to increased trading activity and potentially driving markets upward. So the positive energy of this aspect can lead to more investments, particularly in sectors ruled by Venus and Jupiter. So this could include like luxury goods, entertainment, education, travel, and communication industries. And it's very favorable for negotiation. So Venus in Libra really favors fairness and balance, making this an excellent time for financial negotiations, contracts, and agreements. So the trine to Jupiter in Gemini suggests that deals made during this period can be beneficial to both parties, and both parties are likely to see growth. So in regards to Bitcoin specifically, the Venus-Jupiter trine is likely to bring a wave of optimism into the Bitcoin market as well. And this could lead to a price increase as, investors are willing to take risks, believing in the potential for significant returns. With Jupiter's influence, there may be an increase in trading volume and activity, just general activity in the Bitcoin market. So we might see the thing is that investors might see this as a good time to enter and expand their positions, again, continuing to drive up demand and consequently the price. So this aspect is really supportive of growth. So Bitcoins could see a steady uptrend during this period. However, it is really important to remember, given all of the other aspects that we've discussed, that while this trine brings positive energy, it doesn't guarantee long-term stability. So you want to be very like prudent and not get overly caught up in this upward move. You want to take advantage of it, and by taking advantage, I mean taking profits. So you want to be making sure that you're doing that and not just thinking, like, again, with that communication, that yes, it's all up from here on out. I don't see that to be the case, but we love a little optimism in the market, and we love a positive aspect. So that'd be great to see that for a couple of days. Because then on the 16th of September, we have Chiron square Bitcoin's natal Neptune. So as we've discussed many, many times, Chiron is referred to as the wounded healer, and it represents deep wounds, vulnerabilities, and the healing process. So in financial astrology, Chiron can really signify areas where there's potential for pain or disillusionment, but also for growth and transformation through addressing these issues. Again, we have Neptune coming into play, planet of dreams, illusions, and spirituality, and often confusion. So it can create this sense of idealism, but also lead to deception and unrealistic expectations and uncertainty. So when Chiron forms this square with Neptune, it creates this like challenging aspect that highlights tension between Chiron's need for healing and Neptune's potential for confusion or deception. So this aspect can bring to the surface like these underlying issues that need to be addressed, but may also create periods of like uncertainty and instability. So in the context of Chiron and Neptune, this aspect can highlight areas where unrealistic expectations or illusions can be confronted and healed. So this square can create this period where idealistic or unrealistic beliefs about Bitcoin or the financial markets in general are challenged. And so we may see this expansion with the Jupiter trine, but this may be a period of time where those unrealistic or idealistic beliefs are kind of challenged in this time. So there may be a need to face this disillusionment, and the aspect could bring a sense of vulnerability or insecurity to the forefront. So during this aspect, yeah, there may be disillusionment is really the word, it's really the theme of this aspect, and disillusionment with financial markets. So investors might question expectations or beliefs about Bitcoin. Like if we've just seen this pump up and then suddenly we see this retracement back down, it might be, you know, people are already kind of bored and kind of annoyed with Bitcoin's price action. So they may be getting all hopeful when Jupiter is expanding everything, but then when it retraces again, there's like they're disillusioned with the markets. And yeah, so this could lead to a bit of a correction and loss of confidence. So markets may become more sensitive to news, rumors, or shifts in sentiment, and the influence of Neptune can amplify those fears or doubts, leading to, again, increased volatility or uncertainty. So the tension between Chiron and Neptune suggests a need for greater realism in the financial markets and in your decision making. So you may need to reassess your strategies and focus on what is really tangible, like what are the charts really telling you, rather than what do you want to see, and just being more realistic rather than chasing dreams or speculative opportunities. So if the market has been previously driven by speculative hype or unrealistic expectations, this aspect could trigger a correction. So investors might pull back from Bitcoin, leading to a decline in its price as they reassess their positions. So the square between Chiron and Neptune could also influence the emotional and psychological state of investors. So that fear and doubt or insecurity can lead to, again, impulsive decisions such as panic selling or just a hesitation in buying, even further contributing to market instability. So what I'm seeing with this is that these aspects are sort of like right before we come into the eclipse. So we have on the 14th of September, so a couple of days before, we have that sort of like very positive trine, Venus, Jupiter trine. And then we have this Chiron Neptune square, which could, so we see the expansion and then we maybe see the contraction again. And I could see that the expansion is maybe driven by this belief that Jerome Powell's about to reduce rates and, let's jump on board because it means cheap capital, it means more liquidity in the market. And then we kind of come back to reality of like, hang on a second, Chiron square Bitcoin's natal Neptune. Hang on a second. What does this really mean? Like if he is reducing rates, it means that there is weakness in the US economy. And so that I could see being bad for markets, as we've discussed in previous episodes. And as I said, like the timing of this FOMC meeting, I just find really interesting because we have the eclipse the day before. The first lunar eclipse the day before. And eclipses are really powerful astrological events that often signify major shifts and turning points and sudden changes. So they often bring endings, culminations, and significant shifts in energy. So they also, what's interesting about eclipses, like they're not always bad. They're not always bad. I do feel that this one is going to be more to the downside than to the up, but by nature, something is eclipsed, both figuratively and literally. So they can be difficult to decipher. And then on the other side of that, the eclipse often reveals hidden truths, bringing closure and, prompt emotional responses. So they bring hidden matters to the light, they catalyze events, and they have long-lasting effects. So the catalyzing events part of that I find really interesting, considering we have the FOMC meeting the day after. And realistically, the market is predicting 100% that Jerome Powell is going to reduce rates. As I said earlier, that's not necessarily guaranteed. And for him to not reduce rates as everyone expects would be very eclipsy behavior. But we could also see some other things, hidden truths coming to light. And yeah, again, how we handle the eclipses, I'll talk about in more detail in our next episode. But realistically, they are unpredictable and they are very powerful astrological events. So we want to take notice. But they're not something to be scared of. They're usually like break things open. And as we've talked about in previous episodes, even if Jerome Powell does start reducing rates, that is rarely, I don't even know if it's ever been positive for the markets initially. So it is short-term bearish. So we really could see quite a substantial dip along with the traditional markets, just because it is an indication that there's a weakness in the US market, and the US market affects everyone. So it can signify, these eclipses can signify a powerful moment of change, often related to our collective and individual destinies. So in financial astrology, this can correlate with shifts in market trends, economic policies, or investment strategies that align with future growth. And because this eclipse is in Pisces, it also kind of brings it can bring confusion. So I think we will sort of see that. As I said, not guaranteed that he is going to reduce rates. I do expect him to, but just to keep that in the back of your mind, not be completely shocked if he doesn't. But again, even if he does, this is definitely long-term bullish for Bitcoin, even midterm bullish for Bitcoin. But it could cause quite a substantial correction in all markets. So we just want to be aware of that, and we want to be prepared. And also with the Pisces energy, it might be quite a confusing time. There might not be clarity. And I think if he doesn't reduce rates, people will be really confused. But yeah, this eclipse in Pisces can bring that element of confusion and lack of clarity. So really what I'm looking at as well in terms of levels, there are liquidation levels. The ones to the upside, we're looking at about 65K. So in those aspects where I talked about expansion, again, we could see some expansion tapping out. Like in the last episode, I discussed those liquidation levels. We literally went up, tapped into them once, tapped into them at first, and then went up, pulled back a little bit, and then tapped into the higher liquidation levels and took them out. So, and then we corrected back down. And again, as I said in the last episode, at that period of time, as soon as we started going up, all of the news and conversation about Bitcoin was like, here we go, we're going up, it's up only from here on out. The bull run is back on, you know? And so I just want you to be really, really cautious of that. But also when I give these liquidation levels, these are not buy and sell signals. I don't give signals on this channel, but they are significant levels because there are those liquidations in the market. There is liquidity sitting there for the market maker to go and take, and they're going to go and take them. So that's why they're important. And so, for example, if you do see price coming up to 65K, this is a period of time where you want to watch how market structure is, what market structure is being created, and also how price is responding, what the candlesticks are looking at that time, and then you can make a decision on how you want to respond to that. So on the downside, we do have some sort of smaller, less significant liquidity levels at about 54 to 53. And then we have some pretty substantial levels. Again, I think I spoke about this in the last episode, from about 49 to 46. So don't be shocked if we come down there. Don't be alarmed. You know, it's par for the course, honestly. And yeah, and so next episode, we're going to dive a little more deeply into the eclipses, of course, but I just wanted to give a little bit of a heads up of the energy around that and what you can expect from that, because they are really important, and we're coming into that eclipse shadow period now. So yeah, I'm sorry that I'm not bringing excellent news over these last couple of episodes, but I'm going to be here with you, whether it's good news or whether it's bad news, and I'm just going to call it like I see it, and we can take it from there. And I think what it is, again, is just this theme of sticking to your fundamentals, looking at the long-term, your long-term thesis for Bitcoin, and you know, taking opportunities when they arise, and being, with this Virgo energy, being incredibly analytical about how we're going about that. So I hope you have a fabulous couple of weeks, and I will see you in the next episode. Peace, love, and Bitcoin.